Welcome everyone. Sherry here. And today we're going to talk about potholders. I recently set one on fire and I got thinking about how old my potholders were, and I got looking at them and they are just a mess. They are greasy feeling and they are just filthy. Plus this one has a rip in it. Now this is one of a design that I made up for people with big hands like me. I have quite large hands. So, and my boyfriend has, well, men usually have larger hands than women anyway. And these are good for men because they can slide their hand in there and, you know, they're going to fit. So I need new potholders. So I made this, which is the same as the one I just showed you. Just has a different set. That's called a set. The repeat on your tartan. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So this one I tried quilting, and my friend Christine was telling me that everyone is very interested in making those quilted jackets. So this is a really good way to practice your quilting, or to practice designs or whatever you're going to do, because this is a smaller block, easier to handle, and just make a potholder. Anyway, it's just an idea. So you don't have to do this, because the ones that I used to make, I never quilted them. But it holds your batt in place for you and makes them really thin. So to make this potholder, you need two. See my messy quilt job? It's not even. Anyway, if you're going to quilt it, you have to cut your squares bigger. So if you're going to quilt it, you'll need two, or you need one 11-inch square. And the potholders, when I cut them out 10 inches square. So just cut a little bit bigger because it's going to shrink a little bit depending how you quilt it. So keep that in mind if you're going to make one of these. And they're fairly quick to make, and you can practice your quilting. So yes. So you need two 10-inch squares, plain, and then a print. So I'm using Nova Scotia tartan because I have a lot of it. So two 10-inch squares. Now in the quilted one, I use 3 layers of batt. Look how thin that is. That's not going to work for keeping your hand from burning. So I'm going to add more when I sew it all together. So I just have thin quilt batt. So I'm going to use 3 layers. I only have 2 here. I'll have to get some more. Anyway. So you need your quilted piece or your plain piece of fabric, your print. So that's 2 10-inch squares or 11-inch square for your quilted piece. And then for the pocket, you're going to need 2 rectangles of 10 inches this way and 7.5 inches this way. And then if you're using like cotton, you're going to have little strips left, because if you're making them, you're going to make 2, or you're going to make a pair, and which is 2. I know. I hear myself. Anyway, so then we'll just make a little bias strip, I guess. I would just use your leftover piece, and we'll just fold it over and sew it. so you can hang them up if you want, like there is in this one here, little hangy thing. I just don't hang mine up, so. But if you do, then you need a little hangy thing. I don't know the correct term, hangy thing. So then you'll end up with something like this. And it's really great for men or people with big hands like me. You don't have to worry about finding something to take something out of the oven because your hand won't fit in the oven mitts. Like the store-bought ones is what I'm talking about. So anyway, I did that in white so you guys could see what I did. Anyway, I was just trying out some stitches on my machine. So let's make one of these pocket pot holders. And these make really good gifts too, because you could put recipe cards in here, spices, or tea towels. Sky's the limit, actually. You could put whatever you wanted in here, tie a pair of them together, and make a really nice gift. For, well, you could even use them for Father's Day or something, or you could tie them all up in an apron or whatever. So yes, there's lots of ideas for these. So I like the style of a pot holder because of they're big. Plus you can use them as a trivet. You can set a hot pot or casserole dish on them. Anyway, I'm going to show you how I make these, and there's some ideas to use up some small squares or your quilt blocks or practice your quilting. And yeah, it's a fun way to use the stitches on your machine. And all right, let's get at it. All right, so we're going to take our thing for our hanger. It only needs to be 1.5 inch by maybe like even half the size. So this would do 2 pot holders. This is, well, it's 10 inches because it's the leftover from our, when we cut out the pot holders. So I'm just going to fold that in half, and then I'm going to fold it over again. I'm just going to sew that. So I guess it needs to be at least 4 or 5 inches long. Usually 4 is long enough. I'm going to cut that in half so I have my two ties for each pot holder. I already made one, so can't do that. So the next thing we're going to do is make our pocket. So we have our print and we have our 3 layers of batt. Now they get wrinkly, so I take the wrinkliest one and put it in the middle. Try and flatten it out. So I have 3 layers. I have my print right side up. And try and center it on there. And then I have my other piece, which doesn't seem to be cut the same size, but it'll work. And I want to catch all those layers, so I'm going to sew at least a 1/2 inch seam allowance along one edge. Then I'm going to open up and I'm going to sew along here. This is my fake ironing trick, so I don't have to iron. So I just sewed along there, understitched. Can you see that? Yes, right there. There we go. So now, that was my fake ironing. You could go to the iron, but I don't even have mine plugged in. And I'm going to line these up as best I can. And I'm going to top stitch this down. You could skip that understitching part, but I find it keeps the pocket in place really well. Fold that down. So I'm just going to line up my presser foot with the edge of the here and sew along it. Just top stitching the pocket down. You know, this is optional, I guess. So there. Top stitch the top of my pocket down. Now I'm just going to trim this pocket up because, as you can see, so I'm going to make sure it's nice and flat. You can stick a pin in there if you like, and I'm just going to baste stitch around the pocket. See the difference? So I'm just going to trim this. So I'll be able to see what I'm doing. Just to make it neater. Make sure I'm going to catch everything. So the next part is you take your 10-inch squares and put your print on top of your batt. Alright, line it up as best you can. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And we're going to place our pocket on there, like so. And then we're going to put our quilted piece, or our bottom piece, on the top, right side down. So this is the right side of this. And make sure I have it all lined up. My fabric is all different sizes apparently. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more room. Just going to match those up. You could pin it if you wanted. I am not going to do that. So the pocket is here, the opening. It's at the top. And we're going to start along that top. So we're going to start about 1.5 inches from the corner here. And this is when I put my hangy thing in. I'm going to set it in diagonal to the corner. I'm going to have it hanging out so I can see it. Make sure I'm going to hit it on the corner. So I'm going to back stitch here. And I'm going to back stitch on my tie. And I'm going to turn it. I'm going to back stitch again so the tie doesn't come out when I pull it inside out. And I'm going to back stitch over the pocket part as well, because I can see the pocket sticking out here where it starts. Back stitch there so it doesn't rip. And then I'm just going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around, hopefully catching all my layers, which I think I am. Now you can obviously use that Teflon type, I don't know what it's called, but it's silver usually for making oven mitts. You can use that. I personally prefer for it because it's very fibrous, and I find it, well, quilt too, but not as bad as that stuff. I just find it makes me itchy, and I don't like it. So keep checking to make sure nothing moves. We're getting up to the pocket again. This is quite thick, so I'm going slow. Up to the top. And I'm just going to sew a little bit. Because, so you want to leave that opening right here open, so you can turn it inside out, and it's quite a lot of layers, so you want to leave yourself enough, and then we're going to sew that shut. So I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. Don't need to trim it up too much. And this is any of you that save stuff for your pillows or ottomans that you want to make. It's a good way to save all these for stuffing. The little offcuts that you have. So now we're going to turn it inside out. Oh, we should clip the corners a little bit. Can't remember what I'm doing. So, there. Gave all the corners a little clip. Now we're going to turn it inside out. Poke our corners out. That's what this is good for. You can pull on that. Make sure we haven't missed any seams. I'm going to stick the scissors in here and try and poke my corners out a little bit more. And there we go. So now, just going to sew this shut. I wouldn't bother, it's just pot holder, so I wouldn't bother hand sewing it. And you can, so this is my opening, so I'm just folding it in. I'm going to hold it down, then I'm going to sew across here. And then it's done. Done. Alright, that is what we call a pot holder. All finished. So that's pretty easy. I'm just going to clip some of my threads there. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial on how to make a large hand potholder of a mitt. Potholder, whatever you want to call it. Talk to you soon. Bye.